listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast. As always, a proud member of the CLNS group of podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to all of those great shows for great Patriots content all week long. But tonight, it's the guys here at Pat's Nation Network. Your boy Pat Lane here with my guy Matt St. Jean. And Matt, the Patriots have completed maybe the greatest single-season turnaround in NFL history, going from, listen, I know they won 4 games last year, but let's be realistic. They won 3 games last year to 14 games this year. It's just absolutely incredible what they were able to do.
Yeah, a simply remarkable, historic turnaround for the franchise, for this team, for Mike Vrabel, for Drake May. And, the way you do it, finishing strong with these last 2 games, too, is pretty nice. Feels like a quintessential Patriots tune-up before a playoff run from what we've seen of this franchise in the last 25 years.
Yeah, it really this felt like the dynasty days when you have a hiccup at the end of the season. You kind of lose focus in a game that you should have won, and then you come out and you stomp the last 2, opponents that you have. And again, this Miami game was close at the half, and then you come out in the second half and you just wallop them. It is funny, though, to think about, if Quinn Ewers doesn't make that horrendous throw into the end zone and Hawkins picks it off, it's curious. I'm curious to see kind of what would have happened in that situation. If they go down and tie the game, do the Patriots respond with those 3 straight touchdowns like they did on offense? It's just so. Obviously, I'm going to be honest, but it's interesting.
I'm going to be honest. I think they do the way they played this Sunday. There was, I think, between the end of the Ravens game and the first 2 drives of Dolphins games, week 16 through 18, the Patriots starting offense had a sequence there where in 11 drives they had 10 touchdowns and 1 drive to kneel out a game against Baltimore. So that's 10 consecutive drives where the goal is to score, where the starting offense scores a touchdown. And, it's not high quality defenses down the stretch here, but that's what you're supposed to do against bad defenses. And they did it. Really just back-to-back full team wins here, putting bad teams in the dirt to end the season.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really just, one of the things I love, and it's, it's everyone contributing. It's not one guy, it's everyone. And that's been awesome to see as well. We'll talk about the MVP race, but it has felt like a very team year this year.
I mean, it has. And, they finished top 5 in scoring offense and scoring defense. And the defense has gotten a lot of criticism, and a lot of it is deserved. This is a unit that it's not a unit without faults. And, I think there's some questions about how they're going to handle better competition in the playoffs. But you finish 4th in points allowed for the season. You just can't be upset with that, especially in a year where your defensive backfield is, a lot of guys who are banged up, and you got a rookie starting at safety, and you miss maybe your best defensive player in Milton Williams, one of your best defensive players for sure, in Milton Williams, for a large chunk of the season at the end. You miss your other great player, Christian Gonzalez, for a chunk of the beginning. You're missing your defensive coordinator for basically the entire season. Relying on an interim. Really impressive to put that together the way that they have all year.
Yeah, it's funny because I was writing my article last night, and I was like, going to write something negative about the defense and the run defense in particular. And then I pull up the stats and I go, okay, Jalen Wright had 13 carries for 23 yards. Ollie Gordon had 9 carries for 9 yards. And Quinn Ewers was 16 to 23 for 137 yards passing, and he was sacked 4 times. So, like, there were times when I was like, oh no, I'm worried about what the defense looks like. But then you look at it and you're just like, what in the world is going on here? Like, as bad as it might seem, you look at the final numbers and you're like, oh, all right, well, like, these people are, they're playing better than we think. And again, you mentioned Milton Williams, you mentioned Christian Gonzalez. The Patriots have been without Robert Spillane for a very long time. They've been basically without Kyrus Tonga for a very long time as well. And they've been without Harold Landry as well. And it's one of those things for me where I look at it and just say, like, yeah, if we can get those 3 guys back healthy next week, and I don't know if we can or not. Spillane being on the field last week for practice gives me some hope that he'll be out there. I'm hoping the same thing for Landry. I'm not sure about Tonga, but getting those 3 guys back with a healthy Milton Williams just, to me, makes this defense significantly more formidable. We'll see, but that's what I think, at least.
Well, I think it's funny. You look at the stats, and it's the Patriots defense. It is what it has been all season. So you look at Miami's drives, 11 possessions on the day for the Dolphins. Only 3 of them manage more than 15 yards. The 3 that manage more than 15 yards get consecutive long drives to start the game and a long drive at the start of the second half. And what was uncharacteristic is that the Patriots defense actually held on 2 of the 3. You get a turnover on downs on Miami's first drive, and then the pick in the end zone on the first drive of the second half. So you're able to have 2 of those long drives with no points. And the 10 points, one of them comes on a short field, and the other ones, you get the 1 touchdown drive. And they're an NFL offense with a good offensive head coach on the other side. That's fine that you're going to give up 1 touchdown drive in a game. You expect to be able to beat that. So, it felt ugly at points when you add in the blocked field goal and, a middle 8 that was probably not as strong as you would have hoped. But, you get the pick in there to save that 1 drive, and you're golden from that point on.
Right. Well, it's interesting, too, when you think about, where the Patriots were in that spot. And I mean, that blocked field goal was just horrendous. It's 0% on Andy Borregales. I mean, that was just, Zach Sealer just came in unblocked, basically. And
that was Brendan Jaimes who was trying to block him.
Yeah.
You got to practice squad a guy out there who happens to be on your field goal unit, and he gets beat. And Zach Sealer is a good player.
Very good player. He's probably the best player on the defense. Well, maybe Chop Robinson, but he's been in the league for a long time. He's a good player.
I feel like Sealer just has a thing for making plays against the Patriots.
He does.
It's every year.
It really is.
And maybe it's just we play him twice a year, but I feel like he is one of those guys who is just underrated around the league. He's a good player.
Yeah. I like him a lot, and you're right. Every time they play him, every time they play them, I'm always like, man, that guy is just always out there making plays. But yeah, he's only 30. I'm curious about what his contract status is. Patriots might be looking for a defensive tackle next year, so
he would be fun in New England. I want to pull up a comment here real quick. I feel like it's worth mentioning. B. Gizzy says, it's the missed tackles. They make things look worse. I think it's worth bringing a data point into this because I agree. I didn't think the tackling was necessarily great this Sunday.
Yeah.
According to PFF, the Patriots are the 3rd best tackling team in football. According to Pro Football Reference, their advanced stats, the Patriots have the least missed tackles on defense of any team in the NFL this year.
Which is weird because it doesn't feel that way, does it?
I think I know what it is, and then I think the Patriots are pretty good at tackling, but because I think they're willing to sacrifice power for form on some of them, and guys fall forward through tackles a lot. That felt like the case against Miami, but I don't know. You look at the overall stats, and there were points where it's like, man, this defense stinks. It's you allowed 180 yards statistically, that was the best defensive performance of the year.
Right. Right.
And it's like, I think we're probably just letting the emotions of a couple of those drives override the way the defense actually played.
You're not wrong. I will say that I think I tweeted out at one point, this defense stinks.
It felt like it for a second. I know, like I was complaining about the tackling on Sunday too. I'm not immune from this. I didn't think it was their best performance, but
Right. And so it's, it's one of those things. So anyway, so we'll see what happens. But ultimately, I was really happy with the performance. I thought that, the way they responded in the second half, that they kind of lost focus a little bit. I mean, they came out and just absolutely shoved the ball down their throat for the first two possessions. Just drove it right down the field. Mondre had the long run on the first drive. Really didn't even throw the ball much. And then, then they kind of lose focus. Miami drives down and scores a touchdown. Now it's, 14-7. And then it's, you're like, okay, like what's going on here? Then they get the blocked field goal and you're thinking, oh God, like this is not, so
you're making it hard on yourself.
Exactly. But then they come out in the second half and they blow doors and you're just like, okay, they took care of business. And it's hard to complain about those things. And again, I think it starts with the kicker. Andy Borregales hits a 59-yard field goal right at the end of the half. The longest field goal kick, excluding the preseason, the longest field goal kick in Gillette Stadium history. That's pretty significant. That's like Gillette Stadium's been around for a long time now. There's been a lot of games played there. The Patriots are in the playoffs, well, not anymore, but the Patriots were in the playoffs every single year. And so, there are a lot of opportunities to kick a lot of different field goals there, and that's the longest field goal kick in the history of Gillette Stadium. It's pretty impressive. And for the rookie to hit that, I was pleased.
I think it's partially, at least, a testament to how much better kickers have gotten over
That's very
time.
true.
Like it's kind
That's
of
also
ridiculous.
Cam Little's hitting 68-yard field goals and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. Gillette Stadium is not an easy stadium to kick in either. The wind is weird there, and I don't know if it's a little bit easier since they added the big scoreboard. So maybe that helps Borregales here when you had the open end there and things really used to swirl. I know, especially going towards that open end.
Yeah.
That's the end where Billy Cundiff missed towards, right?
No, he missed the other way. He missed the other way.
Okay. That, which of course after we'll have to talk about the Sunday night game, but I was rewatching that Billy Cundiff kick. But yeah, that's super impressive from Borregales, who has put together a really nice season for himself as a rookie kicker. And it's not all perfect. And
right.
He is still a rookie kicker, so you get into a tough situation in a playoff game. And the fact that he had a 59-yarder is not going to make me feel any better if it comes down to him in a playoff game. But that's still pretty cool that he did that. That was fun to watch. Yeah,
and I think too, Vrabel trusts him. And you think about the way it would have been handled, and not to listen. Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, in my opinion. He's the greatest coach ever. It is funny to me. Pete Carroll got fired today. It's funny that people discussed the legacy of Bill Belichick when the UNC thing was going on and UNC wasn't playing well and they were losing and everything, and he's hurting his legacy and all that stuff. I haven't really heard any of that Pete Carroll talk. And that was an unmitigated disaster there.
I saw a little of that for the first time yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was reading through stuff, and I was like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that was brought up about Pete Carroll is that his run as a really good coach with the Seahawks happened at the same time as a lot of good coaching runs. We talk about Belichick. Right. That's the same time as Jim Harbaugh's run with the 49ers and Mike Tomlin. There's a couple other coaches around that time who I'm blanking on right now. But it's like all of a sudden, with if Pete Carroll was tied with a bunch of guys, now he has this on his legacy. How is that going to affect him?
Yeah, although Mike Tomlin hasn't exactly draped himself in glory either. So
they're in the playoffs. I don't understand how, but the Steelers just win. It's like you look at that roster before the season, man, and it's like this. I was like, this team should finish third in the AFC North.
Yep.
They should probably win 6 or 7 games.
Yep.
And yet I just don't feel like I can predict that because it's them. And it's like, yeah, they look like a 7-win team that accidentally scraped out 3 wins they shouldn't have. And that's like the win against the Colts and the win against the Pats and any of the wins against the Ravens or the win in Detroit. Like,
right.
And
Yeah.
and that's been every single season. And it's like, I don't know if Mike Tomlin is like a great coach overall, but like it's hard to deny those results of just like he doesn't lose.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's so true. The Ravens started and ended with heartbreak on Sunday Night Football. So Ravens. It's so Ravens. I was talking to one of the coaches on the basketball team. Sean is a Ravens fan, and he was just like, I go, it's unbelievable, and he goes, no, it's totally believable. This is what happens to the Ravens every single year, and they lose in some horrendous fashion.
Third year in a row.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and it's funny because it's similar to the Falcons, where the Falcons are just like all the craziest things in the world can happen to the Falcons. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. It's the Falcons. Like, the fact that they knocked the Bucs out of the playoffs, who won it's just so stupid. They were eliminated from playoff contention a month ago and finished tied for the best record in the NFC South. It's just like,
I love that division.
It's unbelievable. It's so good.
It's incredible. Going back to coaching in AFC North for a second.
Yes.
If Joe Flacco does not connect on a Hail Mary in Denver in the wild card round in 2012, that was the wild card, right? Or
that was the divisional game.
Okay. What is John Harbaugh's legacy?
I know.
Because if they don't do that, they don't win the Super Bowl that year.
Correct.
And that's his only ring.
Yep.
And they've had a lot more up and down than like Mike Tomlin. Like the selling point in Mike Tomlin is like, well, your team's going to be competitive. You're going to win games. You're going to beat good teams. You're going to be close. You might not have a chance at the Super Bowl, but you're going to be hard to beat.
Right.
And like John Harbaugh's had a couple like stinkers.
Yeah.
It does feel like John Harbaugh's a good but not a great coach. And you've got a quarterback who's elite, but who had injury issues or health issues of other kinds, combined with the fact that like they've had a good but not great supporting cast. And that has always been like, at least one of those three has gone wrong in every single season for them.
Yep.
And it's like, it's the last 3 years. It's this one. It's, Lamar being hurt puts you in a spot where you have no margin of error for making the playoffs, which comes down to your rookie kicker trying to save a season for you, and he can't do it. Last year, it's your most dependable tight end dropping a pass at the goal line. And the year before that, it's Zay Flowers fumbling at the half-yard line in the AFC Championship game at home with the best team you've had in a decade.
Right. Just insane.
And the 2 years before that, you missed the playoffs because Lamar's hurt.
Right. Right. And it's just like, I don't know. It's so crazy. And I don't feel bad for them because I hate the Ravens, but I just wonder at what point do you say enough is enough and move on? At what point do you do that? But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The whole AFC North is bizarre because like the only coach in that entire division that I was fully confident should not be coaching an NFL team in 2026 is Zach Taylor.
Right.
And he's guaranteed to be staying. And I feel like if you took the other three coaches and just shuffled them between the three other teams in that division, it might work for all three. Like they all just might need new juice. I don't think any of them are bad coaches, but it might be stale. But also, the Steelers are in the playoffs, and like they might win their first game.
Right. The Stefanski thing is interesting because, that I think was the owners wanted Shador, and he didn't, and the owners overruled him basically. And at that point, it was basically over. I think that that's really what it came down to, more so than management and what. But it's just, anyways, he's going to get a job very quickly. I think Stefanski is going to get a job very quickly, and
Giants or Titans.
It does kind of seem like that, and the Giants. Now it depends on how much you believe in Cam Ward. If you believe that Cam Ward can be a good player, then the Titans is a good job. If you believe that Jackson Dart can be a good player, the Giants is a good job. If you don't believe in either of those guys, then those are bad spots, and so you just have to ask yourself do I believe in those guys? Do I take a look at Cleveland and think, is that a spot that I could win at? Probably not, but like maybe.
Oh, since we're just doing the coaching stuff now, I think it's like you look at it, it's like the Giants, like there's some stuff to like there, but the GM is staying, and the ownership group does not look good right now. Cleveland, we're talking about the ownership group meddling to draft a quarterback. If that's what's going on there, then that's not an appealing destination, and Cleveland's not anyway. The Falcons are probably best positioned to be a playoff team next year of any of these, but don't have a first-round pick. And you might not have a quarterback.
Yeah.
So there's you're inheriting a situation there, and it's probably like the job's going to be make this work. We invested a lot in this, make it work. And that's not going to be for every coach. And it's like, all right, these are not exactly ideal situations. Tennessee, they've had their ownership issues there. So like you have a young quarterback. I like Cam Ward. I think he's shown some flashes. How much do you trust ownership? And that's a big thing. It's for all the issues with the Crafts and with them, like I feel much better about where we are just because like we don't have some of those ownership situations that you see elsewhere.
No, it's true, and the Falcons are interesting to me because you have Drake London, you have Bijan. You have Michael Penix, but do you trust a 26-year-old quarterback coming off his 92nd knee injury? I just don't. Like, he's torn his knees up a ton of times. And so that would concern me. He's 26 already too. And well, he'll be 26 when the season starts. He starts 26 in May, but that concerns me. Right, he's largely unproven in the NFL. He's okay. He looked okay this year. He didn't look amazing. He looked okay. That should be the most attracting place. Someone pointed out to Big Easy said that the Falcons have a good defense, which they do, and that's
they have the players to have a good defense. It was just like their defense was so inconsistent this year. I mean, there are days where that pass unit looked like a top 5 pass defense in the NFL. It's just there was no consistency whatsoever. So like it's a location where I think if you're an ambitious coach, you might see this and say, I see the talent, I see what they can be. I'm going to turn this into something. It's just the flip side of that is that if you tell ownership, I can make this work, and you can't, you might never get a shot to draft the quarterback that you want to fix that. You might get 3 seasons, and they're going to say, all right, you're out of here.
Right. And that's, anyways, it's a fascinating situation.
Can we,
and I don't know who's going to be the best.
Can we call it a coaching situation that should be open and isn't?
Yes. That's my favorite
New York
kind.
Jets? I'm sorry. What do you mean? I think Aaron Schatz said that if you remove special teams from the DVOA, this is like one of the 5 worst teams since they started like tracking DVOA. They had no interceptions. The previous in the modern NFL era, the previous record for low was 2.
It's unbelievable.
The last team to have no picks in a season was like 19 or 33. And what that hides the fact that they also only forced 4 turnovers all year, which is also a record because the previous record was 7. So it's just like you brought, like, I get you don't have you're so far away at quarterback. You're starting Brady Cook is the worst quarterback who started any time this year. Like he is bad, and you traded away your good defensive players and all that. But like you hired a defensive head coach. And you just put together one of the worst defensive performances that we have ever seen. Why are we, you have the second pick? I mean, you should with that. You've got Garrett Wilson, bring back Breece Hall, Mason Taylor. You got a good offensive line, and some pieces on defense. So with that pick and all that, that should be a relatively appealing place for a coach, especially if you like more than one quarterback in this draft, then you should be able to just draft the quarterback, plug it in, and hopefully start a turnaround. And instead, you're just going to run it back with Aaron Glenn. This seems like this is the most mystifying coaching decision I think I've seen since the Browns ran it back with Hugh Jackson after they went 1-15.
Yeah, it's funny because the what's it called? You just the levels of horrendousness from the Jets is almost like Garrett Wilson finished as their leading receiver for the year. Garrett Wilson hasn't caught a pass since October 12th. He hasn't played in 2.5 months, and he's the leading receiver for the season. It's impossible.
Well, and then their second leading receiver for the season was Mason Taylor, who also did not finish the season healthy.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's
a rookie tight end.
It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. And you just, look, I understand that things happen and so on and so forth, but like, whatever, dude. I was listening to someone, I forget who it was, but I just saw someone on Twitter, and it was the Oregon QB is Moore, right? No, is it Dante Moore?
Dante Moore.
Right. And they're basically saying Dante Moore should be calling the Raiders and saying, are you going to draft me number 1? Because if you're not, I'm going back to school because I cannot go to the Jets. Like, nobody should want to go to the Jets. And, the hard thing for me is that when do you know? Like, we knew that Gerard Mayo didn't know what he was doing. We knew he was in over his head. We knew from the reports that it was not a professional environment, right? Is that what's going on in New York? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, is Aaron Glenn that bad, or is the talent that he has so bad that he just can't do anything with it? And I don't know the answer to that question. I also do think, however, that you get 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. You, at some point, have to take a look at your GM and say, okay, like, are we going to make a good pick here? Like, how do we feel about this pick? I will say, like, he traded, you make the Sauce Gardner trade, you make the Quinn Williams trade, you make those trades. Fine. But what do we get from our haul? And I guess Armand was played pretty well this year.
And who's developing them becomes the big question. It's like, it's not. In some ways, this is an opportunity for the Jets in that you got to try out Aaron Glenn effectively for free this year. You found out it didn't work, and like, you don't have the quarterback. You're not locked into anything for the future. So if you don't like this, if you didn't like the way it went, you've got the future draft pick. You can just say, we're going to tear it up and we're going to go in a different direction. Nothing lost from this. We tried something that didn't work.
Right.
And yet, like, this is what a lot of bad organizations do, which we're staring right down the barrel of a spot where the Jets draft quarterback number 2 overall. Aaron Glenn returns. He gets fired in October, and going into year 2 of a rookie quarterback, you are hiring a new head coach. And it's like, well, why are we – and maybe you think, the head coaches are going to be better in that cycle, or you're going to be able to attract someone better or whatever. But, like, I don't know why you wouldn't just go for it now, especially, like, someone like Stefanski coming in, I feel like would at least make things more competitive for you with that team, more professional day to day.
Right.
And it's just like,
well, it's fascinating to me because the Patriots are in, were in a similar situation last year, and you almost wonder, and you say, okay, if we move on from a coach after the first year, does that make us a bad organization? That's something a bad organization would do. And I agree to an extent with that. But if you know that this guy isn't the right guy, you have to move on. You have to.
Yeah.
And so if the Jets know that, now maybe they don't. Maybe they believe that he can still do it. I think their owners are stupid, so who knows? But
yeah, and maybe there's stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about. That's like, all right, we have more reason to believe in him. And For what it's worth, Brady Cook was absolutely horrendous. So maybe they just look like a more competitive team, and we're not talking about them this way if they play Justin Fields,
Right.
like, or Tyrod Taylor. I think one of those guys got hurt. I don't remember, but like if they decide not to tank,
Right.
And maybe Aaron Glenn was told, we want you to play Brady Cook to see what we have, and ownership just saying, hey, we don't really care about the results from here on out. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Your job is safe next year, no matter what happens down the stretch. So let's go out and evaluate the young guys and go from there. But that just, you'd have to have one hell of a turnaround coaching wise next year.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's 50-50 that he's gone next October or November.
Well, that's the thing, is it could happen, but in all likelihood it won't. And that's really what you're now on the flip side of that. You look at their first round picks. Armand Membu seems like a hit. Olu Fashanu seems like a hit.
Yeah.
Will McDonald, stud.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner, who they just traded, but very good. Garrett Wilson, very good. Jermaine Johnson, very good. Breece Hall, very good. Like, they've hit on a lot of these draft picks. The problem is that the rest of the team around them just isn't any good, and they haven't built up. They haven't built up the rest of the team, and when you don't have a quarterback, it's a mess.
Yeah, when you add that with, like, it's the kind of roster that if you put in like a young, talented rookie quarterback, could win 6 or 7 games, and by the end of the year, you're like, all right, they're building on something. They can put something together with the right moves. But you have the opposite of that quarterback, and here you are. So like that's right. The optimistic case for the Jets here is that you draft a quarterback who is at least a guy who could play like Tyler Shuck did down the stretch next year, and you feel like you're building something. But with the history of that organization, like I just don't know why the Jets fans should feel any optimism that they're going to make the correct choice there.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a mess. What a mess. And you know what? It's glorious. It's glorious. I love the fact they kept Aaron Glenn. It's great. And I will continue to celebrate the Jets being terrible because the Jets are the Jets, and it's really great. And I will certainly take it for the Jets to just be in the basement every single year. And the Dolphins are an interesting case too, and we'll kind of see where it leads to from here. But Tua looks like he's going to be gone. Mike McDaniel is staying. And I will say, Mike McDaniel, offensively, the stuff that he can do, the plays that he draws up, when you have this guy going that, you get 6 guys going this way, then a guy going that way. I thought that really was impressive, considering the guys they have out there, right? I mean, they get no one out there.
Yeah.
But, he's a great offensive mind. Now, I don't know if he's a great quarterback, if he's a great head coach. I do know he's a great offensive mind. So is it worth keeping him for another year? I guess have him try to draft the quarterback and kind of see what happens. But you can't draft a quarterback because they won games down the stretch. So they finished, I think, 7-10, right? So like they're going to, they have like the 11th pick or something like that. And that's not enough to get a quarterback, I don't think.
I think I agree with what the Dolphins are doing here. Because first of all, like Mike McDaniel didn't pick Tua. He was brought in to help develop Tua, and I think it was pretty clear that he developed Tua to be as good as he possibly could be. And then that wasn't good enough to win a Super Bowl. And now they're after that. And I think I have real questions about exactly how good Mike McDaniel is as a head coach. But like, he's top 20.
Yeah.
And I'm not really I'm just not going to let that guy go, especially when he's never gotten to pick his own QB. It's always been make Tua work. Yeah. So I think that's probably the right, I think you're at a spot where you're at an inflection point as an organization. You're resetting after this year. You're going to move on from Tua. So the question then becomes, do we reset at head coach and bring in someone new? Or do we reset at head coach and give this guy a clean slate and just say, all right, we're going to start over and we're going to have you lead here? Because that's what's going on. I mean, it's not I think that's the way to go here. Like I think McDaniel should be safe for at least 2 years. I don't think they're fixing the quarterback situation next year. So I'd have to think the idea is just try to get talent any way you can next year, get a warm body at quarterback, and then draft someone in 2027 and see how that looks and go from there.
Right.
It's like they've had like Anthony Weaver just got a head coaching interview. Like he's had some good moments at defense. The team is just there's no talent on the roster anymore, none
No.
whatsoever. And I think the fact that they managed to win 7 games, especially winning games down the stretch once they knew that things were pretty much over, speaks to Mike McDaniel. This is also the second head coach in a row that has had issues with Tua in the locker room. And I don't know, Mike McDaniel's a pretty easy guy. If you're having issues with him in the locker room, I'm going to go ahead and guess that he's probably not the one initiating that.
Yeah, you would think. You would think.
So I'm going to guess that, like, I think there's a real chance. Oh, and from some of the stuff, it sounds like Tyreek may have been the cause of a lot of the culture issues, too. And I just wonder if it's like a lot of the issues we've seen in Miami have been bad culture because of the players and poor talent. And you reset on that, and you're in a decent spot, which might work. I also just had a really terrifying vision, which is the Dolphins tanking next year and getting Arch Manning and adding Arch Manning to that offense in 2027, which would be something.
Yeah. The Arch Manning stuff is interesting because, I don't know. He's an interesting case. That's all.
Yeah. Speaking of it's funny because Nate Tice, who is in on Drake May before everyone else and had him as quarterback 1, who was in on Fernando Mendoza before anyone else, said that he thinks Arch Manning would be a top 5 quarterback this year back in end of October, early November.
I'd say that, yep.
The tape's finally coming around, and he's not going to come out this year, but next year. Also, speaking of the Dolphins, probably worth mentioning, Bill Barnwell had Dolphins center Aaron Brewer as his offensive lineman of the year.
How about that?
Yeah, which, center's huge in that scheme, and we talked about how the Dolphins needed to get better on the offensive line to make their running game work the way they want to, and that was a really good. He came from Tennessee. That was a really good signing they made.
Yeah,
that's been a good blend for them.
Yeah, it's really, and so we'll see ultimately what happens. But if they can climb their way back up towards the top, but the Patriots back up on the top of the AFC East again. The Buffalo matchup is interesting. All right, let's take an ad break, and then we can talk maybe about just briefly about the matchups, unless there's something else about the game you want to chat about. I guess before we go, that's not true. We do have to mention Ramondre Stevenson.
We can circle back to something here. Go ahead.
Lost his dad over the summer. Started off the season just about as bad as you could possibly start off a season. I figured he'd be sent to Alcatraz, and he continued to fight. He continued to battle, and he's looked phenomenal at the end of this year. And, he had a fantastic game on Sunday. And you can't help but be happy for a guy like that. Like, he's stuck here, and Vrabel's stuck by him. And actually, it's funny we got started on all this stuff because what I was going to say about Borregales was that after what happened with Borregales, you would think that Belichick would have killed the kid's confidence, would have brought someone in to compete against him. You're not good. You're blah, 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 whatever. And Vrabel's the opposite of that. He holds guys to a high standard, but he also has their back and supports them. And that matters, especially at a position like kicker. And I think it matters at a position like running back too, because there's so much of it that is confidence-based, right? And I think that, that really made a huge difference. So I was really happy to see Ramondre do well. When he's running hard and you have him and Henderson, the Patriots have a really incredible 1-2 punch if they're both running well. And then you add in Drake in the passing game, and it's like, oh my goodness, like Patriots offense becomes very difficult to stop.
Yeah, and I think this comes full circle from week 2, where Ramondre Stevenson and Andy Borregales, despite having some rough moments in the game in Miami, both get game balls for what they do late in that one and some of the big plays they make, and rewarding that trust here at the end of the season. Borregales with a 59-yarder and Ramondre with maybe his best game of the year to wrap the season. That's the culture Vrabel's looking to build, and paying off there. I think Ramondre Stevenson gets very underrated for what he does in the passing game. The
He's
block that he
incredible
has,
in pass pro.
the block he has that frees up May to throw to Hunter Henry on a big play was sweet.
Incredible.
And the route running on a sluggo in the red zone to get wide open. I think it's for all this to talk about the athleticism of Trevion Henderson. I think Ramondre Stevenson's actually a more agile runner, which shows up in his route running. Henderson's a lot more straight line.
Yeah.
But Stevenson's shifty for a guy of his size and his power. I think he's kind of a unique running back. There's not a lot of guys like him because he clearly, as you can see with the long running, he doesn't have breakaway speed. He's got good speed, but not breakaway speed.
Right.
And he's a big running back, but he's shifty. And it's not quite the same, but there's some LeGarrette Blount there.
Yeah.
I don't think Blount was quite as shifty, and I think Blount was stronger and had that better straight line speed. Ramondre's a unique player in that role, and he and Henderson complement each other well. These two back sets they've been working on have been awesome. It's against bad teams, but the running game finally looks good down the stretch here. And maybe that doesn't mean anything. Maybe you go into the first round of the playoffs and you play a good team, the running game is bad again. But we saw this in 2018. The running game was very good until the last 2 weeks of the regular season, and then they figured it out and went into the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. So, you never know what's going to happen here. If they're able to keep this up, if they figure something out with the running game, this suddenly becomes one of the most dangerous. I mean, it already was, but really one of the hardest to defend offenses in the NFL.
Yeah. Now imagine if Hunter Henry could throw a block. I mean, geez, imagine how good the running game would be. But, what are you going to do? Any other notes from the game that you want to get in now? We can probably hit a few of them after the ad break if you want. But I don't know if there's anything you wanted to mention now.
I mean, I think one of the things I'll always hammer home with the situational football stuff is that you come out and score in the first 2 drives and set the tone early at home. That's phenomenal situational football. And I think with the way the defense has played this year, not starting games hot, you need that. You need an offense that can get off to hot starts, which was nice. And then, it was also nice to see them come out with 3 straight touchdown drives in the third quarter.
Yeah.
That has kind of been a lull spot for this offense. You go back to the Bills game or even, the Ravens game where they just the offense hasn't been as good in the second half and the third quarters, and just being able to do that and put them away, I thought was really nice. And, we'll see how that projects against better opponents, but I think it was nice to see. I think basically every element of that Bills loss, we have seen them rectify in some way since then.
Yeah, I agree.
And that makes me feel good. You want to see teams win in multiple ways. You want to see them overcome their flaws in season and grow and develop. And, again, weak opponents the last 3, but they did a good job against them of doing that.
Agreed. All right, I have a few more things that I want to talk about, but let's do the ad break first, and then we'll kind of there's just 2 small things I want to mention, and then we'll kind of go from there. This episode, of course, is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. Now, one of my favorite features on Prize Picks, they now have an early payout if your player gets off to a hot start, and you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the last game even finishes. And again, the fantasy season doesn't end on Prize Picks. Yes, your fantasy season is over. Even if your fantasy season ended before a few weeks ago, like mine did. Unfortunately, it didn't make any championship games this year, but you can still play fantasy football and fantasy sports as you go through with Prize Picks every single day. There are also new social feeds, so you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and or probably most likely fade our picks with just one click. So what you're going to do, download the Prize Picks app, put in the promo code CLNS. You're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, so a few things that I think we just should mention. I love the fact that Mike Vrabel made it a point to get guys their incentives. They wanted Diggs to get his 30 yards, which he did. They put Hunter Henry out there with Josh Dobbs to get his 5th catch, which he did. Obviously, they have no control whether Chasen gets a sack or not, but he did get his seventh sack, which is nice. And I believe there was one other one too, and I can't remember what it was. But but guys hitting the incentives, and I think that matters. That's important, and it matters to those players. Now, listen, I do think that sometimes those guys will get, like, the team might pay it anyways, but it matters to the guys that I got it. And not only did I get it, but he wanted me to get it, and he helped me get it. And I think that matters. That makes a big difference. And so I was happy to see that. I'm sure Vrabel remembers back in his day, Belichick used to do the same thing with his players back when they were good, that he would try to get them those incentives at the end of the year, and that matters. And
I think it's also nice, like, the players played well enough to take advantage of those opportunities too. That
Correct.
always helps.
Yeah.
Nice to wrap it up there.
Correct. And then 11 rookies, all 11 rookie draft picks on the roster on Sunday, including, in addition to 3 undrafted rookies, so 14 rookies on the roster on Sunday. Pretty incredible. Just pretty incredible, the fact that you're able to, have 14, and of course Jared Wilson wasn't starting, but you have 14, rookies on the active roster, on the 53 man.
I think someone's on injured
53 man
reserve,
roster,
right?
I think it was.
I think someone is.
Unless they put Wilson on injured reserve, I don't.
Josh Farmer's on IR. That's who it is.
Oh, they put Farmer. Okay, but either way, right? Either way, they're all on
here,
the team, right? Yeah. And not on the practice squad, like actually here, because Kobe Minor got signed to the active roster. So, just the level of the fact that they hit on so many of those picks, and Will Campbell's been a solid left tackle. Trayvon Henderson is, he may not win Rookie of the Year, but he scored 10 touchdowns and had 1,100, total yards. He, Kyle Williams was an impact player for you at times. Craig Woodson played the most snaps out of anyone on defense this year. Like, you got contributions all over that draft. And they deserve some credit for standing pat at the deadline and trusting those young guys. Elijah Ponder had 4 sacks, in the second half of the year, and came along.
The guys I was going to mention. One we talked about when they drafted Braden Swinson, wanting to draft a guy who could be designated pass rusher, who could come into his own down the back half of the season and fill a need for you. And it didn't end up being Braden Swinson who played that role. It's been Elijah Ponder, and it doesn't really matter how you get there. You just got to get there. So, really happy to see Ponder starting to come into his own. And 4 sacks on the season. I think that's about what Chason had last year. At 4 or 5 with the Raiders, 5.5 maybe. So
something like that. Yeah.
Get into that neighborhood is nice, and he's earned some opportunities. And, edge still a need going forward, but for this playoff run, that's helpful. And to have that depth is always nice.
Yeah, agreed. And then one last thing, Christian Gonzalez. This is PFF, so take it with a grain of salt whether you believe that these statistics are correct or not. But according to PFF, on 76 targets, he allowed 35 catches for 357 yards and 1 touchdown. Here's what impressed me the most. Now, first of all, he had 57 tackles and 19 stops. Like, that's pretty impressive from him in the run game. I thought he was physical in the run game this year. I was impressed with his physicality. Of course, he started a hit that ended up forcing a fumble, but it was a nice hit that allowed the next guy to come in and knock that ball out. He allowed 69 yards of yak yards for the season on 35 catches. That's an average of 2 yak yards per catch. That is outrageous. That's outrageous. That means if my guy catches the ball, he's essentially going down immediately. And that impresses me with him. And they're running a zone, which I know isn't really his strong suit. I get that. But the way that he attacks the football when it comes and the way that he stops those receivers as soon as they catch it makes a big difference. And I just think that, he's gotten a lot of hate from a lot of different people this year. Maybe not hate. It may not necessarily be true, but people don't think he's as good as he is. And I think he's really good. I think sometimes people take it for granted how good he actually is. Yeah. If you get linebackers and safeties that can actually cover next year, I think you see some more man coverage. And then that's when I think you see him really shut some people down next year.
I agree. And I also thought, like we mentioned, the team righting some wrongs from that Bills loss. That I did not think was Christian Gonzalez's best day. He's looked excellent since.
Yeah.
Which is really, I think, if you want to have a down spot on the defense, I think really the only one is Carlton Davis. I thought had a rough day, and it's been a rough season.
I think so too.
For him.
Yeah.
Not as good as expected, and that's always a risk when you're signing a third contract cornerback. Some these guys, it's kind of like what do you call it? Bullpen, like relievers in baseball. Like guys go from being really good to not good seemingly randomly, and then will sometimes bounce back, and they're just year to year they're highly volatile. So not working out as well as you would hope with Davis this year. I would assume, well, at least part of that's the injury he had earlier this year. I'm just going to assume he's playing through that a little bit, and that's not helping.
Yeah, it's true, and that certainly could be part of it. I think TD said, what did he say? 5 for 180 with $100 million guaranteed. It's a hefty contract. That's a hefty price to pay. I don't know. Do you think the Patriots pay that? I guess the real question to me is, will they play an actual man defense? Because I think Christian Gonzalez is a stud. I think he's not worth that money if you're going to be playing a mainly zone defense.
Well, I will say, I think the other part is that we don't know what the defensive coordinator situation is going to look like next year.
Yep.
And we don't know what they're going to do with the other corner spots. And then the other part of this, if they want to play more zone, like Christian Gonzalez might just get better at zone with experience here. He's a phenomenal athlete. He triggers on things quickly. He's long. So, if you're going to ask him to play, or if you're going to play any kind of cover 4, that quarters, that basically turns into man coverage. And if you're going to play, cover 3, which they played a lot of cover 3 this year, that's going to be a lot of him in that Richard Sherman role as a long defender down the boundary. That's something that I have full confidence he can do. So, give him a little bit more experience in this, and maybe he adds a little bit in the zone department, and you end up feeling really good about the scheme fit. So,
that's true too.
We're not there. I think Christian Gonzalez is a great player. So, you either try to keep him, or if you're getting rid of him some way, you're getting a lot back in the process. That's for sure.
Well, I guess then the question is you have to make the decision on the 5th year option after this year.
Oh, you're taking the 5th year option. There's no.
So you take it, right, 100%, and then if you rip it up, if you got to rip it up and add it into the extension because you want to do that, then fine. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's interesting. I just think guys like that don't grow on trees. I think he's a better player than Sauce Gardner is, and so I just feel like you might be able to get a ton for him, but it's not. To me, it's not worth it. I'd rather just keep the guy.
Yeah, no, that's you're keeping him unless the contract demand is something insane that someone else will offer and you won't, or someone gives you an offer you can't refuse trade wise.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this playoff run, receivers you want to have to play here, giving you a lockdown option is pretty nice, especially with potential matchup against Nico Collins in the second round. There, Chargers have 3 good receivers. I look especially like Quentin Johnston as an athlete, and it's like, oh, well, you could put Christian Gonzalez on him, and he's not doing anything all day.
That's
long,
correct.
outside
That's correct. Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting, and that's so. And we're going to get into Thursday. We're going to get into the matchup on Thursday. I don't even want to talk about that right now. What about the other matchups? Because that's what I'm curious about. Well, how do you feel about?
Well, can I give a nugget on this before we get into the actual matchup?
Sure.
Because I just saw this. I thought it was interesting because the Patriots ended up with a Sunday night game, and some reporting has come out after that on how the Patriots got into that slot of all of them. So it was because the Monday night game has to be a 5 versus 4 game for scheduling reasons, just so they can do the travel arrangements. And of the two 5-4 games, Texans Steelers was the one that was seen as the better TV matchup. I'm guessing because Pittsburgh has a lot of fans.
You think?
Yes. So once that gets that, apparently the NFL had decided that just for rest purposes, to make sure things don't get out of whack, then both of the other AFC games have to be Sunday. So there's no possibility of teams with like a 2-day rest disadvantage.
Which makes sense. That makes sense, yeah.
And then I didn't realize that actually the top slot in the playoffs is the Sunday 4:30, the Sunday late afternoon. That's where the best game goes.
That makes sense.
I thought it was either that or Sunday Night Football. So it's the Sunday late afternoon, and the 49ers Eagles game gets picked for that. That was the number one draft pick for the networks. So once that goes, the other two AFC games have to go on Sunday.
Right.
The one involving the AFC South team obviously gets the early one, and LA and New England, two big media markets there, gets the late billing. And the number 2 pick, though, for games was the Bears-Packers game, which
that's why it's a Saturday night.
Yeah, so if you didn't have to worry about the rest stuff, or if the NFC 5-4 game was on Monday instead of the AFC, the Patriots probably end up in that Saturday night slot, which the Saturday night slot is one they've lived in now for a long time. Patriots have played in that game a number of times. So
I would have liked that significantly more than the Sunday night game. Give me an extra day of rest before I have to go into work, but that's okay. What are you gonna do?
Yep. And on the Patriots might know their potential divisional round of matchup before kickoff. So
that is true. Well, they will. Not potentially, they will, because that's not true. You idiot. Never mind. Forget I said that.
Well, they'll know if they're playing either Jacksonville or the winner of the 4th.
Or the winner of the right.
Yeah. Which also going forward, because if the Bills beat the Jaguars, then the Patriots are guaranteed a Sunday game in the divisional round, because the Monday night they'll play the winner of the Monday night game, and that will have to be on the Sunday. That's not going to be on Saturday. So it might be back-to-back Sundays. It might be all Sundays actually for the Patriots on this.
That's unfortunate. So I'm rooting for the Jaguars. Well, I was rooting for the Jaguars anyways, but I was already rooting for the Jags. Now I'm really rooting for the Jags because I have. So I don't know if I talked about this on the show, but I had 2 scheduling conflicts the first 2 weekends of the playoffs. I had my daughter is in what they call it senior districts, but it's a chorus thing that you have to audition for. It's pretty prestigious, and she got in as a freshman, which is pretty cool. She was auditioning against juniors and seniors and everything else, and she got in as a freshman, which is awesome. That performance is Saturday at 1:30. in New Bedford, which is an hour and a half away from Foxborough. So I was like, please God, don't let it be 4:30 on Saturday, because I'll be screwed if that's the case. So it wasn't, obviously, so we're good there. Next Sunday, the 18th, I'm coaching a basketball game that starts at 1 o'clock at New Bedford High School, the same flipping place, an hour and a half away from Foxborough. At 1 o'clock is the game time. So if the Patriots end up playing that 4-5 team, I'm just praying for the 4:30 slot instead of the 1 o'clock spot, because if it's 1 o'clock, I'm going to miss the game.
So the slot, I believe,
3:30 and 6, right?
3 and 6:30, I think.
3 and 6:30. So that's doable. 3 o'clock is doable.
And if it isn't, I can be a good friend and take these tickets.
Yeah, right. I might have to miss like the first, whatever, but someone drop me off or something. So,
But yeah.
but
All right. Matchups. Should we just pick the games real quick?
yeah,
Other
let's
than the
just
Patriots ones?
pick them. Let's just pick them super quick because I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll probably talk about it a little bit more, kind of as we go. But let's just start with Saturday. Saturday 4:30 game. Rams Carolina. Carolina's plus 10.5. I think it's pretty easily Rams, right? Like I just think Carolina already beat the Rams in Carolina, but I don't know.
Everything about this screams Rams win and cover, except for the fact that the Rams played in this very game and lost it already.
Right.
I'm still going to take Rams to win and cover, but I just feel weird about this. Like this is the type of matchup that would totally upset a Super Bowl contender. Like the team that already beat you and knows you and plays at home and has nothing to lose and knows they shouldn't even be there. Like that's the dangerous part. So still think the Rams, but I don't think this is a sure thing.
It's interesting because it was I think they said that this Carolina team's the third worst point differential to ever make the playoffs, fourth worst, and all three of the teams ahead of them that were worse than them all won a playoff game. And so it is just kind of interesting to think about, like, Carolina gets in and literally backs into the playoffs, right? Because they lose the last week of the season and only get in because Atlanta wins. And so, I have a really hard time picking Carolina. I do think there's a chance they cover, maybe. But I actually would feel better about this. I actually think I'd feel better about this if Carolina hadn't already played them. Because Carolina played them and won, I don't think that Carolina is going to beat them again. They could, but I find it very hard to believe that Carolina beats them again. I think, again, it's kind of funny. It's like I almost feel like if they had played them and lost the first time, I almost would feel better about this game for Carolina. But the fact that they won last time just says to me, like, the Rams already know, like, they beat us already. Like, we can lose this game very easily. We got to lock in and play. And so I think the Rams win this game.
I tend to agree. Saturday night.
Green Bay, Chicago. Chicago right now is minus 1.5, although that minus 1.5 is like plus 100. So it's really kind of almost like a pick'em game, more so than it is anything else. I actually think Chicago wins. Green Bay is a lot of fun, but Chicago has been turning the ball over at an obscene rate. Their defense has been getting so many turnovers, it's outrageous. And I think if Chicago can force a few turnovers from Green Bay, and the way Caleb Williams is playing right now, I think that they can win that game. And kind of get their monkey off the back a little bit. I mean, just imagine, like, Chicago is finally good again, and then you play Green Bay, and this is the exact situation I didn't want to be in as a Patriots fan playing the Bills. You're in this exact same situation with the Bears playing the Packers, and I just think the catharsis of beating the Packers in this situation is awesome. And so I'm rooting for the Bears to win. We'll see what happens, but that's what I'm rooting for.
I do think the Bears win. They have not impressed to end the regular season here for the most part, but the Packers have been even less impressive. And the Packers have lost 4 in a row. And I just don't like. They have so many injuries, and I think this is a Packers team that probably should have the 2 seed and should be a top contender to go to the Super Bowl, but they're just too injured.
Yeah,
and I mean, with how they have played down the stretch here, their last win came by intercepting Caleb Williams at home to beat the Bears like a month ago.
Yeah,
they haven't done anything lately, and part of that's them resting guys, and part of that's they said very close loss to the Bears. But
I think they said the Bears' last win is against the Packers, and the Packers' last win is against the Bears.
Yep.
This is just foolish,
But the way that Packers defense got ran through by Derrick Henry in that game, that to me is like, I just
the Bears want to establish the run. So
yeah, and I think the Bears win. I think it'll be close, but I think this will be the the biggest score gap of any of the matchups between these two this year, just kind
Yeah.
of by default.
I think you're right. All right, 1:00 game on Sunday, Buffalo at Jacksonville. So it's difficult for me because I feel like Jacksonville is for real. I feel like their defense is really good, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence this last month of the season is playing. If Trevor Lawrence had played this way for 3/4 of the season, he'd be the MVP. He's been incredible. But I still don't know if I can trust them. Then again, the Bills, I don't know if I trust the Bills either, but I think I picked the Bills, but I don't know. It's a tough one because I just feel like Jacksonville feels like that team. Every year, I feel like there's a team that kind of, quote unquote, comes out of nowhere and surprises everyone. I think that could be Jacksonville. I think they could legitimately be in the Super Bowl this year. I really do. I think they're that talented of a football team. I just think that Buffalo, I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. I'm going Jacksonville, but I don't feel good about it.
I think I'm going to take the Bills. I think Jacksonville's for. I think, there's a decent chance that whoever wins this game comes out of the AFC. I think both these teams are capable of it.
Yeah.
I think the matchup for me, this Jaguars defense is first in rushing yards allowed, fifth in yards per attempt allowed. And the Bills are going to want to run the football, James Cook, especially on the road. This Bills defense also, I don't think, has been as good away from home as they've been at home. It's that is concerning for me. The Bills have just not been as good of a road team this year as a home team, period.
Right.
And the Jaguars are hot. That said, I have a hard time picking against Josh Allen here.
Right.
He's really good, and things just always seem to go wrong for the Jaguars.
Yeah. It does feel that way.
I will say. No, but you know what? I am going to pick Jacksonville here. You know why? I decided this on Sunday, actually, before anything else. And I'll give you my I think this is very close. Look at the Bills kicking situation, and then look at the Jaguars kicking situation.
It's a fair point.
If you are telling me this game is going to be close, I am taking Jacksonville all the way there.
Yeah.
Especially because they don't need to drive very far to be in field goal range.
It's a great point.
Kick the 68-yard field goal. And it's going to be good weather Sunday afternoon. 60 degrees in Jacksonville. So
67 degrees, Nikhil. So
love that.
Yeah.
I
like that.
think if you're the Patriots, you want Buffalo to win this one because I think that is your best chance of hosting an AFC Championship game.
I think
Buffalo
so too.
Going to Denver and beating them. I think Jacksonville wins.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it has to come here. And then the Patriots have to play them, assuming they win. Patriots have to play them.
Yeah.
San Fran and Philly. I feel like Philadelphia should win this game.
Yeah.
I feel like this should be a Philadelphia win. However, you beat the Bills by 1 point. You don't complete a pass in the second half. Right? I don't know. They lost 3 in a row to the Cowboys, Bears, and Chargers. The Eagles have been up and down all year. I want to pick the Eagles. But, then you also see what happened to San Fran this week against Seattle. And, I don't know. I think probably I pick Philadelphia to win. And I pick San Francisco to cover the 4.5 points. It's probably my play here. I think it's going to be close the whole game. And I think Philly pulls it out by 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, I think the Eagles take this. I just think this is a rough matchup for San Francisco. What their offense does well, I think the Eagles have a good defense to try to stop it. And this Eagles offense has not been good, especially down the stretch. The 49ers defense is horrendous and is a liability. And this is the one team where it's there's back-to-back matchups here that I think are like this, with this one and then the Patriots Chargers, where it's on one side of the ball you've got worst versus worst, and it might come down to who survives that.
Right.
And in this one, it's this Philly rushing attack this year, which has been incredibly underwhelming against the Niners run defense that can't stop anything.
Right.
And if this Eagles offense, if they score 3 touchdowns, I think they're winning this game. And they're at home. And I like this for Philly.
Yeah, I like it. We're not going to talk about the Chargers Patriots. I'm assuming. I mean, I'm picking the Patriots. I'm assuming you're also picking the Patriots. We won't talk about it. We won't break it down. But
I'll just mention the worst versus worst. There is going to be offensive versus defensive lines when the Chargers have the ball. PFF has this Chargers offensive line is 31st in pass blocking and 32nd in run blocking against this Patriots defensive front that has been banged up. So it's hard to tell how fair it is, but the pass rush and the run defense have not been as good in the back half of the season. So I think that kind of becomes your battle to watch of what determines the game. If one of those teams is able to turn the other team's weakness into a fatal flaw, exploit it, and take over the game that way, for both the Eagles-Niners game and this one, I think that probably determines the winner.
Well, I think the biggest question is, do you get the question is, do you get a healthy Robert Spillane, a healthy Harold Landry, and a healthy Kyrus Tonga back? If you get those 3 back, I think your run defense becomes exponentially better. And if that's the case, especially Spillane, if that's the case, that makes a huge difference for the Patriots. And I don't know whether that's going to be the case or not. But if those 3 guys can play and are close to what they were at the middle, during the middle of the season, I think that could really tip the scales to the Patriots.
And then when the Chargers are trying to throw the ball too, Herbert's a very good quarterback. He's a great quarterback, and that receiving core is good. Rondé Gadsden's been a good tight end, and you got 3 receivers who can punish you in 3 different ways. So if Herbert has time, he's gonna beat you. So the pass rush is huge there. Harold Landry, Elijah Ponder breaking out here is nice. Anthony Jennings having a nice game last week. Kayvon Chason might end up being a key X factor type guy on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and then it becomes, what do you get from the inside pass rush? Do you get Barmore and Milton Williams coming in, making some plays in the inside too? So we'll see. And then last game, Monday night, Houston at Pittsburgh. I don't see how Pittsburgh can possibly win this game. But I feel like those are the games that Mike Tomlin's teams win. If the Steelers were favored, I'd be putting the house on Houston. But I don't know. Pittsburgh's a home dog. Everything points to Pittsburgh losing this game by double digits. But I don't know. I just feel like these are the weird games that Mike Tomlin's teams win. And so it really kind of calls into question what I even know. But for me, I don't know how I have to pick Houston, but it's so weird.
This matchup is fascinating to me because Aaron Rodgers' whole thing, his what he brings to the table at this point is that he knows what you're going to do, and he will custom design a play at the line of scrimmage to beat what you're going to do because he's going to figure it out. That's the idea here with this offense. The problem is the Texans are the least diverse scheme in the NFL. They just roll the ball out there and say, beat us. They don't do anything exotic on defense, really. They just say, we're better than you. So I'm just so curious how those two things match up here because they're not trying to fool Aaron Rodgers. They don't care if Aaron Rodgers knows what they're doing. They're saying we're going to beat it anyway. But historically, I feel like those are the types of games where quarterbacks who are good with their mind end up winning. So, and Houston's defense is so much better than the skill guys that the Steelers can put out there. Darnell Washington's hurt, the running game isn't there. If the Steelers can run the ball, I think we're going to have a good game.
Yeah.
But the other thing here is that we don't think the Steelers are good, and yet they've inexplicably won games because Like, they'll force turnovers.
Yep.
And CJ Stroud is one of the worst quarterbacks in the AFC playoff field.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a great Texans offensive line, even though it has played better. There's a world where Houston goes in and wins this 31-10. There's also a world where things get bogged down just like they did for the Ravens, and Stroud throws a pick or two, or Woody Marks fumbles, or,
Right.
somebody fumbles, and Steelers get a short field and get a touchdown, and all of a sudden it's a 13-10 game in the fourth quarter, and we're all sitting around like, well, Aaron Rodgers only needs one drive, and they're into the next round.
Right. It's true.
So I'm going to take the Steelers.
It's crazy.
This should be a low-scoring game between two defensive teams, and this is the best possible matchup the Steelers could have gotten in the first round.
I agree. I do agree, which is so weird to think because everyone's like, "Oh my God, the Texans are the team to beat in the AFC," and they just might be. But it's a perfect matchup for Pittsburgh. You're totally right. And for the Patriots, just imagine this scenario. Just imagine this scenario, if you will, for a second. The Bills win on Sunday. The Patriots win on Sunday. Obviously, this is irrelevant if the Patriots don't win. The Bills win on Sunday. The Patriots win on Sunday. The Steelers win on Monday night. The Patriots host the Pittsburgh Steelers on the following weekend, and
probably the Sunday night game, if I had to guess.
Probably the Sunday night game, which would be fantastic for me. I just don't see a world where the Pittsburgh Steelers come into Gillette and win in Gillette again. I can't imagine it. So you're talking about the Patriots in the AFC Championship, and are they hosting the Bills in the AFC Championship? I can't. I'm getting ahead of myself because we got to get to the Chargers first. But it's just that's the path. That's the path.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario I think you could draw up here.
Right.
The flip side of that is that then if the Jaguars win, Patriots-Jaguars is a very difficult game.
Sure
especially
is.
The Jaguars team just beat the Bills, and now the Steelers are going a mile high where you don't think they're going to have a chance.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
So we'll see what happens there. And then in the NFC, which we have the Eagles winning.
The Eagles winning.
The Eagles, the Rams, and the Bears.
And the Bears, yeah. So then you have
Eagles at Bears, Rams
correct.
At Seahawks.
Yeah.
And
Rams Seahawks again.
Rams Seahawks feels like a de facto NFC championship game there.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's really it's a fascinating it's gonna be a fascinating playoff. I'm excited about it. And what's great about it is the Patriots can't play the Bills until the AFC Championship game. So regardless of what happens next weekend, they can't get there until the AFC Championship game. And so I like that. So we'll see.
That's nice. And you got 2 out of 3 chance here of playing a team that either won the AFC North or the Texans, which as far as teams go in the second round, divisional round of the playoffs, you'll take that.
Right. Yep. Yes, you will. So we'll see. But anyways, that's all I got. You got anything else, Matt, before we go?
I'm sure we're missing something, but
yeah, we'll catch up on things on Thursday night if we need to.
I know Drake May setting the Patriots single season franchise record for completion percentage.
Well, I mean, in fairness, the Patriots haven't ever had any good receiver, any good quarterback, so it's not like a great feat or anything like that. It's
I'm just so over the MVP discussion. Like even Brady picking Stafford. No,
it's just
it's come on now. Like Drake May has, third or fourth most yards passing, plus all 400 yards rushing. Got 30-something touchdowns. He's leading the NFL in yards per attempt and leading the NFL in completion percentage. With a roster people did not think was good at the start of this year, and winning a lot of games with it. The only thing that should beat that for MVP is a historic quarterback season. Right. Stafford threw for 50 touchdowns. I'm willing to give it to Stafford, but this isn't a who threw the most touchdowns award. It's a who was the most valuable to their team award. And I think you can make an argument that Matthew Stafford, relative to expectations at the position, isn't even the most valuable player in that passing attack. It's Puka Nacua.
Right. Well, that's and I think so. A few things go into that, right? Drake May was first in the NFL in completion percentage, yards per attempt, EPA per dropback, pass EPA, QBR, and passer rating. Sixth highest in NFL history. Sixth highest completion percentage in NFL history, which is ridiculous.
From a quarterback who, like, the concern was one of the concerns from critics was his accuracy.
Correct. So 72% completion percentage. The next closest player was Mac Jones at 69.6, who played, 7 games?
Yeah.
Yards per attempt was 8.9. Second closest was Sam Darnold at 8.5. EPA per dropback was plus 0.25. Next closest was Jordan Love with plus 0.20. His pass EPA was plus 151.2. The next closest was Matthew Stafford with plus 123.3. It's 30 points higher, for God's sakes. His QBR was 77.7. Next closest was Brock Purdy, who, again, played half the season at 73.1. And his passer rating was 113.5. Next closest was Stafford with 109.2. It's not about, like, the thing for me is that he's just first in everything. Every single thing that you look at. And it was so funny that, I was watching something on Twitter. I don't know who said it, but they were saying, stats guys are like, yeah, it's made by a country mile. Film guys are like, it's May, but it's close. And then TV analysts are like, oh, my good buddy Matt's had such a great year, man. He's got to get MVP. And it's just like, there's no argument for Matthew Stafford other than the fact that he's been a great quarterback for a long time, and he threw a lot of touchdown passes. That's it. It's silly.
Well, and it's like the best argument, I think, for him statistically is probably volume. Like, he threw it 100 more times than May did this year. But to me, that's fully offset by the fact, like, when you include May's rushing yards, he has more yards on the season than Stafford does. So, yeah, like, he didn't need as many attempts to do what you did. That means he was better than you at it.
Right.
That's what that means with a worse supporting cast. Like, if that's not what the MVP is, then I'm lost here.
Well, and here's what happened, right? Let me tell you what happened. Yesterday, Drake May throws for 191 yards and a touchdown. Okay? He was the favorite going into yesterday. He throws for 191 yards and 1 touchdown. Matthew Stafford throws for 259 and 4 touchdowns. Fine, right? Stafford had touchdown passes of 2 yards, 21 yards, 22 yards, and 1 yard. Okay, fine. 2 inside the red zone. The Patriots had a franchise-tying 4 rushing touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was a 35-yard touchdown run. One of them was 5 yards. One of them was 2 yards, and one of them was 2 yards. Now, let's just say for a second that Drake May throws those 3 touchdown passes instead of the Patriots running them in. Drake May finishes the game 17 for 21 for exactly 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Does he then win the MVP because of that? And why do we care about that? Like, because they're running the ball on the goal line instead of throwing it for a touchdown? It's just like, if that's what we're talking about, and that's the argument, what are we even talking about? It's stupid.
Well, here's the thing. Like, touchdown passes being a tiebreaker, I don't necessarily object to, except it isn't tied.
Right.
So we can't go to that. And it's not, and it can overwhelm if it's historic. If Stafford's throwing 50, 55 touchdowns, all right, sure, I'm willing to concede that. That's totally fine. Not for these numbers.
Right.
And they're great numbers. This has been a great season for Matthew Stafford. The award isn't who had a great season, who has also had great seasons before. It's who was the best, who was the most valuable guy this year.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't.
And it's just,
And it's one of those, like, Matthew Stafford, they got him in the game with 4 minutes left, up 10 in the fourth quarter, throwing touchdowns from the 1 yard line.
Right.
Shameless. And it's, I don't hate on it, because clearly voters are being fooled by this stuff. So you'd be silly not to try for it if they're actually going to listen to it.
Yeah.
But the idea that I saw Rams fans saying that Drake May's stat padding against the Jets. He played 6 possessions in that game.
Right.
That's
Right.
stat padding. He had less than 200 yards passing this Sunday, in part because you had a 3-play, 70-yard scoring drive with 3 rushes to start the game.
Right.
Thank you, Miami.
Yeah.
But also because the game gets out of hand so quickly into the second half that you're pulling him. Like, you
Right.
shouldn't be punishing him for running up. Like, the one of the biggest differences between Stafford and May's performances there is that the Patriots played better early and the starters came out. And the Rams were in a close game until the fourth quarter, so the starters had to stay in.
Right. Right. And that's
Even with
ultimately,
Yeah.
it's just silly. And so, again, I don't really care. Like, obviously, I want Drake May to win MVP. It really doesn't matter to me whether he wins MVP or not. I do think that what's funny to me is the people that say it's just because he played the schedule he played. And it's silly. I saw something that said there have been 49 quarterbacks to win MVP. 49 in NFL history. Drake May would be the one and only quarterback to win MVP without a single Pro Bowler on offense with it. That stuff matters. Like, you can talk about the schedule all you want, and that's fine, right? And as Greg Olson said, you're not playing, one's not playing the SEC, the other one's playing the Sun Belt. Like, that's not how it works. You're all playing the NFL, right? If you want to see the schedule, well, then look at their common opponents and see what it looks like that way. Because guess what? Drake May play better against their common opponents. So, like, it's that type of stuff where it's just like, all right, what are we even talking about here? Like, why? I just feel like people are contorting themselves into pretzels to make this argument for Matthew Stafford when it's really not that difficult.
I will say it does bother me if he doesn't win it, because, like, what's the point of these awards if we're not actually rewarding what's happening on the field in that season?
Right.
And when you go back, like, when you look back in 10 years, you're going to forget all the narratives and you're just going to say who won the award. And they're going to say, oh, Matt Stafford.
Right.
And, like, Drake May played better than Matthew Stafford. So when we're looking back in 10 years and talking about this, we should be talking about that. Like, the fact that Brady didn't win over Aaron Rodgers that year, he was in Tampa, still bothers me. And it's like he should have won in 2016 if he doesn't get suspended, which brings down his numbers. Like, the fact that someone like Tom Brady only goes down with 3 MVPs. Like, you know the real reason why Lamar didn't win the MVP last year? It's because the voters looked at it and said, we can't give him as many MVPs as Tom Brady has with what he's done, which is a dumb reason. But, like, that's the reasoning that's propping up this entire system.
Right.
Like, it's like it should be the guy who played the best that season.
Right.
And that is Drake May this year.
Yeah. And what's funny is that Brady has more Super Bowl MVPs than actual MVPs. And it doesn't necessarily surprise you, but it's also still kind of like, how did he not win more MVPs? Like, you're totally right about the Rodgers thing. Like, the Rodgers winning it that year is lunacy. Yeah. There's absolutely no argument for it.
Brady led the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, passing first downs, yards per game, well, obviously.
Right.
At 44 years old.
I mean, he threw for
Which obviously the age
threw for 5,000 yards.
That was a career high for yardage.
Yes. It was the only time in his career he cracked. Well, that's not true. He cracked 5,000 yards in 2011, but he throws for 5,300 yards and 43 touchdowns.
Second best season in terms of yards per game. Second best season in terms of total touchdowns. It was lower in terms of, like, yards per attempt, but, like, man, that season, it was so good and it should have been recognized and it wasn't. And that just bugs me. And, like, there are valid reasons to vote for Matthew Stafford. There shouldn't necessarily be like a unanimous MVP or anything, and I'm open to listening to other arguments. But when someone like Dan Orlovsky, who has a personal relationship with one of the guys, gets
Right.
a vote, and when you listen to his reasoning, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Mr. I wash my towel once every 30 times I use it gets to vote for MVP.
Yeah, it's just,
Like it's,
well,
and
again,
it's
you go back to that 2021 one, right? Like, Brady threw for more than 1,000 yards. Over 1,000 yards more than Aaron Rodgers did. Right? It's like, it's insane to think about. This is 2021. Yes, it was 2021.
Yeah.
He throws for more than 1,000 yards more than him. He throws for 6 more touchdowns. Now, he also throws 8 more interceptions, but like, so what? It's just, it's insanity that that's even considered, when you talk about like what matters. And you've seen Rodgers play drop off a cliff since then. And it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's one of those things, and it has nothing to do with this one, but it should, because just pick the right guy, and the right guy is Drake May. It's really that simple, like, because it's not that close. Like, again, we're talking about Brady having 6 more touchdown passes and 1,200 more yards passing. 1,200 more yards passing. Stafford has what? 350 more yards passing. And when you combine the rushing yards, Drake May has more total yards than he does. So, like, we're not even talking about a big.
The only thing he has is total touchdowns.
This
is the equivalent to giving MVP award in baseball the guy with the most home runs, even though someone else was an all-around better player.
Right.
And yeah, the other thing too, like the consistency that May have. How many games did he have with 100 passer rating or better? I think it was
13.
All but 4. Yeah, 13. Again,
Yeah.
franchise record. The level of consistency that you are seeing, the fact that Drake May is just delivers the ball that accurately, that consistently, game over game, and avoids mistakes, it's crazy.
Right.
So yeah,
and I believe Stafford had 12 passing touchdowns of 1 or 2 yards this year. If you combine May's rushing touchdowns with his passing touchdowns, that puts him one above him, I think. And again, I don't know
if you take away the 1.
If you take away the 1 yard touchdown. So I don't know if May had a 1 yard, had a few 1 yard touchdowns. I don't know that for sure. But that's the it's like, it's close. It's close enough that the analytical numbers, right? That the advanced metrics, that every single one of them goes to May. And it's not close. He's leagues above everyone else.
Yeah, it's
like, it's just one of those things. It's my favorite is Greg Thompson, who is, we've had him on here before. He's, cover one guy, and he just basically, like, he just tweets out every now and again, like, Drake May, like, deserves MVP and won the MVP, but like, F the Patriots, he shouldn't win it anyways. Like, he's just like, I just don't want to win, which is great.
Well,
like, I'm cool with that.
I think that's the real thing, is that people are really upset that we're good again, and they don't want to admit that we have another MVP level quarterback.
Right.
I think that's the real bias at play here, combined with the fact that, like, Stafford's a likable guy and he's played at a high level this year, and for the story you want to give it to him, but that shouldn't be about how it is. Put it this way: if that's how it is, then May has earned a sympathy MVP at some other point in his career, and I will be waiting on that.
Right. Yeah.
And the day, maybe when he's 40 years old and he has a good season, I'm going to be out there as his strongest soldier saying, hey, well, he was only the second best quarterback this year, but you guys gave it to the second best over him when he was a kid. So,
yeah,
owe to him now.
Yep. So silly.
I have one last thing before we log off, by the way.
Yes.
Only that I have this next to me here. I've been to one Patriots playoff game in my lifetime, and I'm so glad that I get to reuse this week.
Hey, look at that.
Beat LA.
I love it.
That'll be hanging up in my apartment all week long.
That's so good. So good. I love it.
When do they announce the MVP? That's like
I think it's like the week before the Super Bowl. Yeah.
So we're gonna have all of this. See, the funniest way this can go is for one or both. Not as a Patriots fan, if you're a neutral fan, it's for one or both of the MVP quarterbacks to totally flame out in the playoffs and then win the award.
I know.
It's like, oh wow, Matthew Stafford's season ended 3 weeks ago because he threw 3 picks at Carolina. Oh yeah, here's your MVP.
Right. Well, that's the funny part about it. You know what I mean? Now, the other one that's interesting to me is the offensive rookie of the year discussion, which is Ted McMillan versus Travion Henderson is really all it is. Ted finished with 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. It's pretty damn good. Had 122 targets. Like, they threw him just basically he was the only receiver on the team that could do anything. Henderson, on the other hand, finished with 900 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns, and he also finished with he also finished with 35 catches for 221 yards and a receiving touchdown. So he finishes with more touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, and more all-purpose yards as well, right?
He led the Patriots in all-purpose yards this year.
Yeah,
or not all-purpose.
Well,
yards,
yes, large scrimmage yards, right? So
1132.
That's a guy for me where you look at it and say
he did actually lead all-purpose as well because he returned kicks.
Oh, because he was returning kicks too. That's true too. Yeah. So, but he's a guy that didn't play a lot at the beginning of the year, and really kind of turned in his opportunities. Ted McMillan had a really good season. But I don't know, Henderson made a little push there at the end. And so I was hoping if Henderson had Ramondre's game on Sunday, he wins the award. And so I don't know if he did enough. He did score 2 touchdowns. I don't know if he did enough to win, but we'll see. It's a fascinating one. And of course, Coach of the Year is the other one that's, could go to Vrabel, could go to Liam Cohen, it could go to Kyle Shanahan, it could go to Mike McDaniel, it could go to, Ben Johnson, it could go to any of those guys. And I think all of those guys are deserving, of the award.
I think if I had to give my votes, I'd go May MVP. I'm still a little undecided on Offensive Player of the Year because I think credibly, it could go to Matthew Stafford if you wanted to do that. It could go to Puka. It could go to JSN. It could go to CMC. Bill Barnwell's column today, he had I totally missed this. Trey McBride had 132 catches.
Outrageous year this year. Yeah.
Like you could give Offensive Player of the Year to one of 5 different players in the NFC West. So whoever you like out there, I would give Offensive Player of the Year to. I'd lean towards Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think Puka's production was better, but the drop off with JSN compared to everyone else, he's getting more attention.
Yeah,
and he drove that offense. And then Coach of the Year, I think I'd go Mike McDonald. What they did in Seattle this year, and that defense is incredible, and it's clear that they had an organizational vision over multiple years here and executed it, culminating in this. And I think that deserves being rewarded.
Yeah, he was fantastic, and JSN was just otherworldly. For a while there, it looked like it was going to be Jonathan Taylor. He tailed off, of course, at the end of the year, and but it's really fascinating to kind of see where these guys all end up, and I think they're all deserving. Like, that's offensive player of the year is really difficult. That's a difficult one. And old man Mom mentions CMC. He's had almost close to 1,000 rushing and receiving yards together each. Which is just outrageous. Didn't hit it. Came close, but didn't hit it. If he had hit that, I think he probably wins, just because of how absurd that is. But the way it finished, he may not win it. But my goodness, he had a heck of a year as well. And so, it's hard to kind of pick the guy that you think is going to be the best necessarily, but I just think, McCaffrey, 1,200 yards rushing, 102 receptions for 924 yards. Like, he had an outrageous season as well. But that's the thing
the effect on what defenses could do against San Francisco, I think, was massive too.
Yeah, that's the other part of it, right? You see the impact that he has on the team. So,
yeah.
But anyways, all right, let's get the heck out of here. It's late.
A nice short show on a Monday night.
I know, Jesus Christ. Well, at least we started early, so we're ending, around the normal time.
Earlier, yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be there Thursday night, talking about more specifically. We're going to dive into that Patriots-Chargers matchup. In the meantime, be good to each other and go Pats.